Lieutenant Maya Bennett had spent 4 years at the United Earth Fleet Academy learning how to talk to aliens. She studied languages the way some people studied weapons. By the time she graduated, she could speak 7 human languages and 3 alien ones. Her teachers said she had a gift. They said she would make a fine diplomat someday. Her first assignment was supposed to be aboard a peaceful ship. She would translate treaties. She would help humans and aliens understand each other. She would never see combat. That was the plan. The plan fell apart on a Tuesday morning. Maya stood in the cargo bay of a ship called the Harbinger. She held a datapad in her hands, and she read the words on the screen 3 times because she could not believe them. The screen said she was assigned to something called the Xenobiological Threat Response Division. Someone had written a simple name next to it in parentheses, Monster Division. There has to be a mistake, she said to the man standing behind the desk. His name was Frank DeLuca, and he looked like he had not slept in days. Frank shrugged his shoulders. The computer says you belong here. If you want to complain, you can talk to command. But they are very far away, and this ship leaves in 6 hours. Maya looked around the cargo bay. She saw crates with warning symbols on them. Through a window, she could see soldiers in heavy armor fighting holograms of creatures that made her stomach turn. The creatures had too many legs and too many teeth and eyes in places where eyes should not be. What does the Monster Division do? She asked. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. Frank laughed, but it was not a happy sound. We hunt the things that other species are too scared to fight. The big ones. The dangerous ones. The nightmares that make entire empires pay us money just to keep them safe. Maya felt cold all over. I am a translator, she said. Not anymore. Frank pushed a bag across the desk toward her. Your room is on deck 7. Commander Kyle Morrison wants to see you at 6 in the evening. Try not to die before then. Maya took the bag and walked to her room. She did not unpack. She sat on the bed and tried to figure out how this had happened. Somewhere in a computer system, someone had made an error. They had typed the wrong code or clicked the wrong button, and now Maya Bennett, language specialist, was going to hunt monsters. At 6 in the evening, she stood in Commander Morrison's office. The commander was the biggest man she had ever seen. He had scars across his face and was missing 2 fingers on his left hand. He looked at her file, then looked at her, and his face showed nothing. Communications specialist, he said. His voice was flat like a stone. Someone made a joke. Sir, I sent a request to transfer back to my original assignment. No. He threw the datapad onto his desk. We are leaving for the craft system in 6 hours. Something is killing colonists there. Something big. I do not have time for paperwork, and I do not have time to watch over you. You will follow Sergeant Daniel Cooper. You will do what he says. You will try not to get anyone killed. Daniel Cooper was waiting for her in the hallway. He was a thin man with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes. He looked at Maya the way someone might look at a child who had wandered into a war zone. Stay behind me at all times, he said. Do not touch anything. Do not make noise. If I tell you to run, you run. If I tell you to hide, you hide. If I tell you to play dead, you actually stop moving because some of these things can hear your heart from 50 meters away. What are we hunting? Maya asked. Daniel touched a button on his wrist, and a hologram appeared in the air between them. Maya took a step backward without meaning to. The creature was like a snake, but it was 20 meters long. It had armor instead of scales, and its head split into 4 separate jaws. Each jaw was filled with teeth that looked like broken glass. The teeth glowed with a faint light. The craft call it the World Eater, Daniel said. It has killed 300 colonists in the last month. The craft sent 2 hunting parties after it. None of them came back. Maya stared at the hologram. And we are going to kill it? Daniel smiled. It was the first real expression she had seen on his face, and it surprised her. He looked almost proud. That is what the monster division does, he said. We kill the things that cannot be killed. Maya did not sleep that night. She lay in her bunk and listened to the sounds of the ship. She thought about her parents back on Earth. She thought about her friends from the academy. None of them would believe where she was right now. She thought about running. Maybe she could hide somewhere on the ship until they reached the Krath system. Maybe she could pretend to be sick. Maybe she could do something, anything, to avoid going down to that moon and facing that creature. But Maya Bennett had never run from anything in her life. She had grown up in a small town where people said she was too quiet, too strange, too focused on her books. She had proven them wrong by getting into the best academy on Earth. She had proven them wrong by learning languages that most humans could not even pronounce. Maybe she could prove them wrong again. She got out of bed and went to the ship's library. She spent the next 6 hours reading everything she could find about the World Eater. She read about its biology, its hunting patterns, its habitat. She read reports from the Krath soldiers who had tried to kill it and failed by the time the ship reached the Krath system. Maya Bennett was still terrified, but she was also prepared. She did not know how to fight, but she knew how to learn. And learning, she decided, was just another kind of weapon. The dropship descended toward the jungle moon, and Maya watched through the window as green light filled the sky. Somewhere down there, a monster was waiting. She took a deep breath and checked her sidearm. It felt small and useless in her hands, but her mind felt sharp. And somehow, that was enough. The third moon of Krath was a jungle world covered in plants that glowed in the dark. The air was thick and wet, and it pressed against Maya's chest like a heavy blanket. She stepped off the dropship and felt her boots sink in the soft ground. The hunting team had 8 soldiers, including Daniel and Maya. Each soldier carried weapons that could destroy a small building. They wore armor that covered them from head to toe. They moved through the jungle like ghosts, barely making a sound. Maya carried a small pistol. It felt like a toy compared to what the others had. The team's tracker was a woman named Lisa Huang. She was small and quick, and she could read the ground like other people read books. She knelt beside a deep groove in the dirt and held up her hand. "Something came through here," Lisa whispered. "Maybe 2 hours ago." Daniel looked at the tracks. They were huge, wider than Maya's whole body. "It is moving in circles around the colony. Hunting pattern. It knows we are here. How could it know?" Maya asked before she could stop herself. "These things are smart," Daniel said. "Smarter than anyone expected. It probably saw our ship." They moved deeper into the jungle. Maya watched the soldiers and tried to learn from them. She noticed the hand signals they used to communicate. She noticed how they kept a certain distance from each other. She noticed how their breathing changed when they sensed danger. Her translator's mind was working, even here. She was learning a new language. The language of hunters. After 3 hours of walking, they found the first body. It was a Krath soldier. The Krath were an insect-like species with 4 arms and natural armor on their bodies. Their shell could stop most bullets. But this soldier had been torn apart like paper. Pieces of armor lay scattered across the ground, melted and burned. Nathan Blake, the team's medic, knelt beside the remains. "Acid," he said quietly. "The creature does not just bite. It melts its prey." Maya felt sick. She had seen death in news reports and training videos. This was different. This was real. She could smell it. She forced herself to breathe slowly. She forced herself to stay calm. The attack came without any warning. One moment, the jungle was quiet. The next moment, the World Eater burst through the trees like a living earthquake. It was even bigger than the hologram had shown. 20 meters of armored death, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. It roared, and the sound shook the trees. Maya saw its four jaws open wide. She saw the rows of crystal teeth, dripping with glowing liquid that burned whatever it touched. The soldiers opened fire immediately. Plasma bolts and bullets hit the creature's scales, but most of them bounced off. The ones that got through did not seem to slow it down. "Fall back," Daniel shouted. "Pattern Delta." Maya did not know what Pattern Delta was. She just ran. Behind her, she heard screaming. Humans screaming. She dove behind a fallen tree and pressed herself against the ground. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. She forced herself to look back at the battle. Lisa was down. One of the creature's jaws was clamped around her leg as she was screaming. Nathan was trying to pull her free while the other soldiers poured fire into the monster's head. Nothing was working. The creature was too strong, too fast, too armored. And then Maya saw something. She saw the creature's eyes. It had 4 eyes on each side of its head, 8 in total. But one of them, the lowest one on the left side, was different. It was clouded over, like fog on glass. It was blind. Maya watched how the creature moved. When it turned left, it moved its whole head instead of just looking. It was compensating for the blind eye. The words came out of her mouth before she could think about them. "The left eye." She shouted as loud as she could. "The lower left. It cannot see from that side." Daniel heard her. He did not ask questions. He did not hesitate. He moved to the left, flanking the creature, and fired a concentrated burst directly into the clouded eye. The plasma bolt went through. The World Eater screamed. It was a terrible sound, filled with pain and rage. It let go of Elisa and thrashed wildly, smashing into trees and tearing up the ground. "Heavy weapons," Daniel ordered. "Now." A soldier named Jake Martinez stepped forward with a missile launcher on his shoulder. He aimed and fired. The missile hit the creature's wounded head and exploded. When the smoke cleared, the World Eater was on the ground. It was still moving, but barely. Its jaws opened and closed weakly, and then it went still. Maya crawled out from behind the tree. Her hands were shaking so badly she could not hold them still. Daniel walked toward her. His face was covered in dirt and blood, but his eyes were clear. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "How did you know about the eye?" he asked. Maya swallowed hard. "I watched it move. When it came from the left, it turned its whole head, like it could not see from that angle. So I thought maybe that eye was damaged." Daniel stared at her for a long moment. Around them, the other soldiers were helping Lisa, who was still alive but badly hurt. Nathan was already working on her leg. "Wang is going to lose that leg," Daniel said. "But she is alive. Because of you." Maya did not know what to say. She had not planned to speak. She had just watched and noticed and understood. The same skills that helped her learn languages had helped her read a monster. "Maybe you are not as useless as I thought," Daniel said. It was not exactly a compliment. But standing in that jungle, covered in dirt, surrounded by the smell of burned flesh and plasma fire, it felt like the highest praise Maya had ever received. She looked down at her hands. They were still shaking, but something had changed inside her. The terror was still there, but there was something else now too. Purpose. She had found a weakness that trained soldiers had missed. She had helped kill something that had slaughtered hundreds. She had done it not with weapons or strength, but with her mind. The dropship came to take them back to the Harbinger. Lisa was unconscious, her leg wrapped in emergency bandages. The other soldiers were quiet, processing what had happened. Maya sat in her seat and watched the jungle fall away beneath them. Somewhere down there, The body of the World Eater was already being eaten by smaller creatures. Life went on. She thought about the academy and her training as a translator. She thought about the comfortable life she had expected. Then she thought about the clouded eye and the screaming monster and the moment when everything had clicked into place in her mind. Maybe this was where she belonged after all. 6 months passed, and Maya Bennett became a different person. She trained every day until her body ached. She learned to shoot until she could hit targets without thinking. She studied combat medicine with Nathan Blake. She learned tracking skills from Lisa Huang, who had received a mechanical leg and returned to duty. She read every report about every creature in the Monster Division's files. But her greatest strength was still her mind. Commander Morrison called her to his office one evening. He was looking at her reports, and his scarred face showed something that might have been respect. "You see patterns," he said. "Most soldiers look at a monster and think about how to kill it. You look at a monster and think about how it lives, what it wants, what it fears." Maya nodded slowly. "I just try to understand them, sir. It is like learning a language. Every creature communicates something through how it behaves. That is a strange way to think about killing things. Maybe, but it works." Morrison put down the reports and leaned back in his chair. "The Varth Empire hired us for a job. They have a mining world with a nest of shade stalkers. Normally, we would go in with heavy weapons, burn out the nest, and accept that some of our people would die. That is the standard approach." Maya had read about shade stalkers. They were creatures made of living darkness, almost impossible to see until they attacked. They had killed thousands of Varth miners over the years. "Your report suggested a different approach," Morrison continued. "Explain it to me." Maya stood up straighter. "Shade stalkers are sensitive to light. They hunt in darkness because light causes them pain. But their eggs need specific temperatures to survive. If we change the environmental controls in the mining tunnels and raise the temperature by 15 degrees, the eggs will die. The adults will leave the nest on their own to find a better place, without firing a single shot." "Without firing a single shot, sir? No casualties on either side?" Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something Maya had rarely seen him do. He smiled. "I am giving you a promotion," he said. "Lieutenant Commander. And I am giving you your own team. You will call it the Analytical Hunting Unit. Your job is to find better ways to deal with these creatures. Ways that do not get my people killed." Maya felt her heart skip. "Sir, I am not sure I am ready for command." "Neither am I, but you have done more in 6 months than some soldiers do in their whole careers. And frankly, we cannot afford to keep losing people the old way. The galaxy is getting more dangerous, and we need to get smarter." Maya's team started small. Daniel Cooper became her second in command. He had requested the transfer himself, which surprised everyone. When Maya asked him why, he just shrugged. "You see things I do not see," he said. "I have been doing this for 15 years, and I still would have missed that eye. I want to learn how you think." The next addition was Dr. Carmen Reyes, a xenobiologist who had spent 20 years studying alien predators. She was gray-haired and soft-spoken, but she knew more about creature biology than anyone else in the fleet. Then came Victor Nguyen, a behavioral psychologist who understood how minds worked, both human and alien. He helped Maya understand the patterns behind the patterns. Paula Jenkins was an engineer who could build traps from nothing. Give her some wire and scrap metal, and she could catch almost anything. The last member was the strangest. His name was Crix, and he was not human. He was Vorath, a former soldier whose entire unit had been killed by a creature that Maya later identified and stopped. He had left his empire and asked to join her team. "You saved my people's miners," Crix said when Maya asked him why. "You did it without violence. That is something my kind does not understand. I want to learn. Together, they became something new. Not the strongest team in the monster division. Not the best armed. But the smartest. Their first mission was the Shade Stalker Nest. Maya's plan worked perfectly. The creatures left without a fight, and the miners returned to work within a week. No one died. No one even got hurt. Word spread quickly. The second mission was a group of tunnel worms threatening a colony on a desert planet. Standard approach would have been explosives. Maya discovered that the worms were following underground water sources. She worked with Paula to redirect the water away from the colony. The worms followed the water. Problem solved. The third mission was a pack of sky hunters attacking ships in a busy trade route. These creatures were fast and aggressive, almost impossible to track. Victor realized that they were protecting a breeding ground on a nearby asteroid. Maya negotiated with the trading companies to change their routes slightly, avoiding the breeding ground. The attack stopped. Mission after mission, the analytical hunting unit found solutions that others had not considered. They did not always work. Sometimes they still had to fight. Sometimes people still died. But their success rate was higher than any other team, and their casualty count was the lowest in the division. 18 months after her accidental assignment, Maya received a message from the Galactic Council. She read it 3 times because she could not believe it. What does it say? Daniel asked. Maya looked up at him. Her face was pale. The conclave of species is meeting. They have a problem they cannot solve. Something is destroying entire planets. They have tried everything, and nothing works. And they want you? They asked for me by name. Maya set down the datapad. They called me the Monster Hunter. They said I am the only one who might be able to help. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he put a hand on her shoulder. 2 years ago, you were a translator who got sent here by mistake, he said. Now the whole galaxy is asking for your help. That is not an accident. That is who you are. Maya thought about the frightened young woman who had stood in Commander Morrison's office, hoping for a transfer that would never come. She thought about the long nights studying creature biology. She thought about all the missions, all the close calls, all the times she had stared death in the face and found its weakness. Tell them I am coming, she said. The analytical hunting unit packed their gear and prepared for the journey. Whatever was destroying planets out there, Maya would find a way to stop it. She had to. That was who she had become. Not a translator anymore. Not just a soldier. Something new. Something the galaxy had never seen before. A human who could think like a monster. The conclave of species was held on a space station at the edge of known space. Maya had never seen so many different aliens in one place. Representatives from 12 species filled the great chamber, each one stranger than the last. The Vorath were there, tall and covered in shimmering scales. The Krath clicked their mandibles nervously. There were beings made of light, beings made of stone, beings that floated in tanks of liquid because they could not survive in air. Maya felt very small standing before them all. Her team waited outside. This was something she had to face alone. The Vorath ambassador spoke first. He was ancient. His scales faded with age, but his voice was strong. We have heard stories about the human called the Monster Hunter. We have heard that she kills creatures that have plagued our worlds for generations. We wish to know if these stories are true. Maya stepped forward. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her voice steady. I am Maya Bennett of the United Earth Fleet. I do not know what stories you have heard, Ambassador. I just do my job. A sound like laughter rippled through the chamber. The Krath delegate clicked his mandibles. She is humble. Our people have seen her work. The world eater that terrorized our colony for 3 years, she killed in one day. I did not kill it alone, Maya said. I had a team. I just found the weakness. That is exactly what we need, the Vorath ambassador said. Someone who finds weaknesses. He raised a clawed hand, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. Maya felt her blood turn to ice. The creature was enormous. It was at least 100 meters long, maybe more. But what made it truly terrifying was that it had no fixed shape. It kept changing, flowing like liquid metal. Arms appeared and disappeared. Eyes opened and closed in random places. It looked like a nightmare given physical form. We call it the Formless One, the Vorath said. It appeared in the Nexus system 3 months ago. Since then, it has destroyed 4 planets. Maya stared at the image. Destroyed? What do you mean destroyed? Consumed. It ate everything. Plants, animals, civilizations, the very rock and metal of the planets themselves. When it leaves, there is nothing left but dead stone. The chamber was silent. Maya could feel the fear coming from every species present. These were beings who ruled empires, who commanded fleets, who had existed for thousands of years. And they were all terrified. What have you tried? Maya asked. For the next hour, the various species described their attempts to stop the Formless One. They had used nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, biological poisons. Some species had technology that humans could barely understand, weapons that could bend reality itself. Nothing had worked. It adapts, the Vorath explained. Every time we attack it, it changes. It learns. It becomes resistant to whatever we used against it. Maya walked closer to the hologram, studying it from every angle. Her mind was already working, looking for patterns, looking for meaning. You said it adapts to attacks, she said slowly. Does it adapt to anything else? The aliens looked at each other. No one had an answer. What do you mean? The craft delegate asked. I mean, you have been treating this thing as an enemy to destroy. You have been throwing weapons at it. But it is alive. Everything that lives has needs, desires, weaknesses. Maya turned to face the assembly. You have been looking for ways to hurt it. I want to look for ways to understand it. Understand it? The Vorath ambassador sounded confused. It is a monster. There is nothing to understand. There is always something to understand. Maya thought about all the creatures she had faced. The World Eater with its blind eye. The Shade Stalkers that feared light. The Tunnel Worms that followed water. Every one of them had made sense once she understood how they thought. I need everything you have about this creature, she said. Every observation, every piece of data, no matter how small. I need to know what it does when it is not destroying planets. I need to know how it moves, how it feeds, how it reacts to different environments. Give me all of it, and I will find its weakness. And if you cannot? The Vorath asked. Maya met his ancient eyes. Then you are no worse off than you are now. But I do not think I will fail. I never have before. The Conclave agreed. Maya was given access to everything. Sensor readings, video recordings, scientific analyses, survivor testimonies. She returned to her ship and called her team together. This is the biggest thing we have ever faced, she told them. It has killed billions of beings and destroyed whole worlds. Every weapon in the galaxy has failed against it. And we have 3 weeks to figure out how to stop it. Dr. Reyes looked at the data on her screen. The biology does not make sense. It should not be able to exist. It violates basic physics. Then, we need to understand its biology better, Maya said. Crix, I want you to analyze the military data. How did it respond to different attacks? What made it react fastest? Victor, I need you to study its behavior. Does it have patterns? Does it prefer certain types of planets? Is there anything it avoids? Paula, start thinking about containment. If we cannot kill it, maybe we can trap it. Daniel, coordinate with the Conclave fleets. If I come up with a plan, I need to know what resources we have. Her team got to work. For the next 3 weeks, they barely slept. Maya spent hours staring at data, looking for patterns, looking for meaning. And slowly, piece by piece, a picture began to form. I think I understand, Maya said one night, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. Daniel looked up from his console. What did you find? It is not attacking, Maya said. It is feeding, but not on matter, on energy. She pulled up a chart showing all the weapons that had been used against the Formless One. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, plasma beams, reality warping technology. Every single one of these releases massive amounts of energy when it hits the target. And every single time, the creature got bigger, stronger, more resistant. Maya pointed at the chart. We have been feeding it. That is why it keeps growing. That is why nothing works. The team stared at her. So we stopped shooting it, Victor said slowly. Then what? Maya smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was hope in it. Then, we give it something it cannot resist. Something that will destroy it from the inside. She had found the weakness. Now, she just had to figure out how to use it. Maya stood before the conclave again, but this time she had a plan. The Formless One feeds on energy, she explained. A star map floated in the air before her, showing the Nexus system and the surrounding space. Every weapon you have used has given it more power. That is why it keeps growing. That is why it cannot be stopped. The Varth ambassador leaned forward. Then how do we kill something we cannot attack? We do not attack it. We feed it. Maya pointed to a spot on the map, far from any inhabited worlds. This is a pulsar. It is a dead star that spins very fast and releases enormous amounts of energy. More energy in 1 second than our sun produces in an entire day. You want to give it more food? The craft delegate sounded horrified. I want to give it too much food. Maya pulled up data about the pulsar. The Formless One absorbs energy, but there has to be a limit. Nothing can absorb infinite power. If we lure it to the pulsar and it tries to feed during a pulse, the energy will be too much. It will overload. It will destroy itself from the inside. The chamber was silent. The various species looked at each other, trying to process what she was suggesting. How do we lure it? The Varth asked finally. We create a trail. The creature follows energy, so we give it energy to follow. We use your ships, your weapons, everything you have, to create a path of small explosions leading away from Nexus and toward the pulsar. The creature will follow the trail like an animal following a scent. That will take months, the craft said, and require every ship we have. Yes, Maya did not blink. But it will work. I am certain of it. How can you be certain? No one has ever done anything like this before. Maya thought about all the creatures she had faced, all the patterns she had found, all the times she had seen what others could not see. Because I understand how it thinks, she said simply. It is hungry. It is always hungry. And when it senses the pulsar, it will not be able to stop itself. It will feed until it dies. The conclave voted. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. They had no other options. The monster hunters' plan was their last hope. The operation took 3 months to prepare. Every species contributed ships and resources. They mapped the route from Nexus to the pulsar with exact precision. They calculated the timing of the pulsar's rotations down to the microsecond. Maya supervised everything. She barely slept. She checked every calculation, every plan, every backup plan. Her team worked beside her, each one contributing their skills. Finally, they were ready. The first explosions began at the edge of the Nexus system. Small detonations, just enough to get the Formless One's attention. Maya watched from an observation vessel as the creature stirred, turning its shifting mass toward the energy dot it followed, day after day, week after week. The trail of explosions led the creature further from Nexus. Maya's vessel stayed at a safe distance, monitoring everything. She watched the creature feed on each explosion, growing slightly larger each time. "It is working," Daniel said one morning. "It is following the trail exactly as you predicted." Maya nodded, but she did not relax. The hardest part was still ahead. After 2 months, the Formless One reached the edge of the pulsar system. Maya could see it on her sensors, a massive blob of constantly shifting matter and energy. It was bigger now than when they had started. Every explosion along the way had fed it, but that was part of the plan. "It senses the pulsar," Dr. Reyes reported. "Energy readings are going crazy. It is moving faster now." Maya watched as the creature accelerated toward the dead star. It was no longer following the trail. It had found something better, something irresistible. "All ships fall back," Maya ordered. "Get to minimum safe distance." The fleets of 12 species retreated, leaving the Formless One alone with the pulsar. Maya stayed as long as she dared, watching through enhanced sensors. The creature reached the pulsar and began to feed. Maya could see it expanding, absorbing the constant stream of energy that the spinning star produced. It was growing faster than ever before. "Rotation approaching," Victor announced. "Pulse in 30 seconds. The pulsar turned. A beam of pure electromagnetic energy, concentrated and impossibly powerful, swept across the Formless One. The creature tried to absorb it. Maya could see it swelling, stretching, consuming. And then it consumed too much. The explosion was visible from 3 systems away. It lit up the darkness of space like a second sun, bright enough to blind sensors, bright enough to cast shadows on planets light years distant. When it faded, there was nothing left of the Formless One, just cooling particles drifting in the void. Around the pulsar, cheering erupted across every communication channel. A dozen species celebrated at once, their different languages mixing together into a single sound of joy and relief. Maya did not cheer. She sat in her chair and stared at the empty space where the creature had been. She felt tired, more tired than she had ever felt in her life. Daniel found her still sitting there hours later. "You did it," he said quietly. "You killed the unkillable thing." Maya shook her head. "I did not kill it. I understood it." "That is different, is it?" She thought about the question. When she had first arrived in the monster division, she had been terrified of the creatures they hunted. Now she understood that fear was just another language, a language she had learned to speak. "The Vorath want to give you a title," Daniel said. The whole conclave agreed. "They are calling you the Apex Hunter. It is the highest honor any of them give to warriors." Maya laughed softly. It was a tired sound. "I am not a warrior. I was never a warrior. I am just a translator who got sent to the wrong place." "You translate death," Daniel said. "You read the language of monsters and speak it back to them. That makes you something new, something the galaxy has never seen before." 3 days later, Maya stood before the conclave one final time. The Vorath ambassador placed a medallion around her neck. It was made of metals from 12 different worlds, forged together into a symbol of unity. "Maya Bennett," the ambassador said, his ancient voice filling the chamber. "You came to the monster division by mistake. You have become the apex predator of our age. Not through strength, not through violence, but through understanding. May you hunt forever." Maya touched the medallion and thought about the person she had been. The quiet translator who had spent 4 years learning alien languages. The frightened young woman who had wanted nothing more than a transfer back to safety. That person seemed like a stranger. Now, She looked out at the assembly of alien beings, all of them watching her with respect and something close to awe. She thought about the billions of lives she had saved. She thought about the creatures she had destroyed not with weapons, but with understanding. She had been assigned to the monster division by mistake. But somewhere along the way, she had found her true purpose, not to fight monsters, not to kill them, but to understand them so completely that she became something they feared. She had become the apex, and somewhere out there in the vast darkness of space, other monsters were waiting. Other challenges. Other puzzles that only she could solve. Maya Bennett smiled and touched the medallion again. She was ready.